As a quick announcement, the Sweet Softies merch shop is now open. There are gifts for crocheters, crafters, yarn addicts, mamas, and more. It's all designed by yours truly. Here's a sneak peek at some of the apparel in my shop. I have hoodies, tees, and more designs and pieces coming. I also have different items for crocheters like water bottles, caps, zipper tote bags, and canvas pouches. The link to my shop is in the description box below. Thank you! Today we're going to learn how to crochet the Mini Lunar Lantern. It is a quick, easy, and no-sew project. Let's review the materials and get started. For materials, you're going to need some bulky weight yarn. You can also use thinner yarns if you'd like, but what I'm using here is super bulky weight 6 yarn. This is Hobby's Honey Bunny. You'll use the colors red and yellow if you want to make a traditional lantern like me. With that yarn, I have a 5mm hook. You'll also need a yarn needle for sewing details like the little mouth on your lantern if you want that. And it's also helpful to have this for sewing on the tassel and hanging loop. You'll also need a pair of 8mm plastic safety eyes and some fiberfill stuffing. If you'd like, you can use some thinner yarns for sewing on the mouth, and I'm using a thinner yarn for the tassel as well. All right, let's get started. To begin, we are going to use yellow yarn. And we're going to start with round 1, which is 2 chains, 1 and 2. And then you're going to insert 8 single crochets in that first chain you made. If you'd like to do the magic ring method, you can try that as well. That would be inserting 8 single crochets into the magic ring. I like using the chain method when I'm working with this plush yarn because it's hard to kind of cinch up that magic ring at the end. But of course, if you're using other types of fibers or thinner yarn, you're welcome to do the magic ring method instead. For round number 2, we're going to single crochet around in the back loops only. So you're going to work only in that back loop, and we're going to single crochet 8. So into that back loop, single crochet, into that back loop, single crochet, and all the way around. After you've single crocheted all the way around in those back loops only, you'll notice that your piece forms kind of this nice little hat, and that's the top of the lantern. We're now going to work on the body of the lantern. So go ahead and grab your red yarn for that. And for round 3 here, we're going to increase around in the front loops only this time using the red yarn. So I'm actually going to, the way I like to switch colors is to finish off the last stitch by pulling through with the new color. So here I'm going to pull through with red. And now I'm going to continue but work in the front loops. So here I'm going to increase by putting 2 single crochets in that first stitch. In the next stitch, again, go only into the front loops and increase. And we are going to work this all the way around for a total of 16 single crochets. After you finish round number 3, you can go ahead and snip off the yellow yarn. We're going to continue working in red for a while and use yellow again at the very bottom of the lantern. For this next round, round 4, we're going to single crochet and increase and repeat that 8 times around. And I'm going to use a stitch marker here, which is actually just a scrap of yarn. You can use that, an actual stitch marker, of course, but I'm cheap like this, so. And this time we're gonna work through both loops. So you're gonna go through both of your crochet loops as normal. So single crochet, and in that next stitch, we're going to increase. Repeat that. So single crochet, and in the next stitch, increase. Single crochet. In the next stitch, increase. And all the way around. So just repeat that. At the end of the round, you should have 24 stitches in the round. Here I've gone all the way around, and I'm back at the beginning of the round for round number 5. From rounds 5 all the way to round 7, you're just going to single crochet around. So with the yarn that I have here, I'm going to mark my spot at the beginning of the round, and working in both loops like normal, you're just going to single crochet all the way around with no increases or decreases at all. So here we are, just working around, going 1 stitch in each stitch. And since this is, we're just doing straight rounds, we'll meet back when round number 7 is complete. And now that you finish round 7, we're going to move on to round 8. For round 8, you're going to do a decrease round. It's going to look like a single crochet and then a decrease repeated all the way around 8 times. So I'll show you a few. We're going to single crochet and then a decrease by crocheting 2 stitches together. I'm doing an invisible decrease here. You can do a regular one if you want, but the invisible decrease is basically going through the front loop of the next stitch and the front loop of the stitch after that. Yarn over, pull through both loops, yarn over, and pull through both loops. And that's that. So another single crochet, and then here's my decrease again, into the front loop, into the next front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Single crochet and decrease. Single crochet and decrease. And as you work around, you will have 16 stitches in this round at the end. After you finish going all the way around, what you're going to do next is insert your plastic safety eyes. So get those eyes ready. I am going to insert my eyes between round 6 and round 8. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Round 6 and round 7. So counting down, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here's 7. So I'm going to put the eyes somewhere in between here. I like seeing where the back of my lantern is, where the color change happens, and making that the back side. So this will be the front side. The eyes can go about 4 to 5 stitches apart. So here, if I'm counting over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be 5 stitches apart. And I think that looks about right. You can go ahead and put your eyes closer if you want. That's pretty cute. Or you can do them farther. but I think 5 stitches seems to be the happy place for my lantern. So go ahead and secure those eyes. After you've got those eyes in, you can go ahead and continue on with the rest of the lantern. It is advisable to start stuffing the lantern now, and you can go ahead and keep stuffing as you work along. So for this next round, actually, for round number 9, you're simply going to decrease around. So here, going from 16 to 8 stitches. And I'm just going to go ahead and do regular decreases now. 1, 2 decreases, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 decreases, 'And if you want to stuff your lantern a little more, you can do that now or later actually. I'm gonna go ahead and do mine after this next round. So now at this point, we're gonna switch to yellow yarn again. And we're basically going to jump into round 10. In round 10, we're gonna single crochet around in the front loops only. So I'm gonna go ahead and like I mentioned earlier, when I'm changing the color, I finish off that last stitch in the new color. So I'm going to gently pull that apart, pick up my loops for that last stitch, and pull through with my new color, which is yellow. And I'm working only in the front loops. So going into the front loop, I'm going to single crochet. There we go. And in the next front loop, we're going to single crochet again. Single crochet. And all the way around until you have gone all 8 stitches around. And when you finish round number 10, you can go ahead and fasten off that red yarn if you'd like. I just stuff that back in. And with the last round here, you're simply going to single crochet around for round 11. So going into both loops, I'm gonna go and insert my single crochet, single crochet, single crochet number 3, number 4, and let's go to 8 here, number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then you're going to fasten off with a long tail, and you're going to fasten off. It's going to look a little funny right now because it looks extra long on the bottom and kind of short on the top. But as we fasten off and weave in the ends to close up the circle, the bottom's going to get shorter. So let's go ahead and get that part done. You will fasten off with a lengthy bit of yellow yarn though, because what we're going to do is use that yellow yarn to sew up the bottom and also sew stripes onto our lantern. So I'm going to cut maybe, let's see, I usually eyeball it, but I'd say maybe about 15 inches of yarn here to be safe. And I'm going to pull that through. Now is the time to finish stuffing your lantern if you haven't fully stuffed it yet. And I like doing so with the back of a crochet hook, as you can see. Especially when the hole is pretty small and I can't squeeze my big sausage fingers in there. Gotta use some tools. Sometimes fiberfill stuffing bags come with like a chopstick to help stuff, so that's pretty useful too. Oh, and I've got my scrap yarn back here. I'm gonna pull it out. Don't want that hanging out in there. And you'll want to kind of squish your lantern so that the body of it is a little more squat. You're not gonna try not to overstuff it and make a really elongated lantern. Unless you want that kind of shape, that's fine too. But I like my lantern to be kind of short and squat, like so. All right. And at this point, it's also, before you close up the circle, it would be a good time to embroider the little mouth because you can hide the ends easily within the hole. So let's go ahead and grab that black thread or black yarn, bit of this black yarn, and here's my little yarn needle, thread it through, and let's embroider that mouth. So kind of eyeball to see where you want the side of the mouth to start. I always start with the side and then find the other side. And then go down to the center. There we go. And you can go ahead and sew it back down into that spot. And once you have the little mouth sewn, you can go ahead and tie the ends of your yarn and tuck it inside. All right, and now to get ready for that long yarn tail here, we're gonna thread it. And we're gonna start off by stitching the bottom of this lantern closed. What I'm going to show you is a really easy method and clean method to close it up. You're going to go into that first stitch and into the front loop only. Then go into that next stitch, go through the front loop from the other side. And then go into the front loop from the front. Go into that front loop from the back. We're alternating sides here. Go into the front loop from the front, go into the front loop from the back, going from the front, going from the back. And I've made it all the way around. And when I finish, I'm gonna just cinch it up by pulling on that yarn tail. You'll see that it closes and it kind of turns into a perfect seam, turns into a perfect closed up hole. And you can go ahead and just put your yarn needle through. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start sewing the stripes on my lantern. So I'm gonna find a stitch up here and I'm gonna sew it over. So let's see. I think here's a good place to start. All right, and I'm going to sew this first stripe down here, And I want the next stripe to go on this side actually, over here. So as I pull this through, you'll see that stripe come into place. And I'm going to put this up here. Ta-da! Now, I've got quite a bit of leftover yarn, but that's okay. I'm just gonna kind of put a couple stitches in from top to bottom. That will make sure my lantern is nice and squat. Again, I kind of like it looking flatter as opposed to too elongated. And after you've pulled your yarn through a few times, you can go ahead and fasten off. And here's your little lantern so far. Now with this part of your lantern done, we can go ahead and make the little tassel on the bottom and the hanging loop on top. Let's make the tassel. First, you're gonna find an object that is hard, and it could be like a rectangular piece of something like cardboard or whatever you want that's going to be about the length of the tassel you want. Now, it's okay if it's a little longer. You can always trim the end of your tassel later. So what you'll do is grab the yarn you want to use to make your tassel. I'm using a really thin, fine weight thread here, or excuse me, not thread, it's still yarn. And I'm going to just wrap this yarn around my rectangular object, my hard rectangular object, a few times. And you will want to keep going until your tassel is as thick as you want it to be. So I'm going to stop around here. I think this is a good thickness. And I'm going to snip off the end of it. After snipping off the end, you're going to gently and carefully pull your wounded yarn off. And as I pull it off, I'm going to keep holding the top of the, I'm going to hold it so that I can go ahead and find the bottom, the top, and here's the bottom. And let me cut the ends to the bottom here. There we go. Now we've got a little bundle of yarns that are the same length. I'm going to leave this down here. And I'm going to get some more thread. What I'm going to do is get a nice long strand, and I'm going to tie it in the middle of my bundle. You can always double check it by pulling it up and seeing how your bundle looks, making sure it's in the middle. I'm going to double knot it. Excuse me. After that, let me just go ahead and trim the ends here. Oops, dropped my scissors, sorry about that. Okay, so my tassel is looking, the top of this is plenty long, so what I'm gonna do is actually pull it through, and this is gonna become a hanging loop on top. You can go ahead and finish off your tassel though by getting one more strand of yarn to tie around the center here. Or not the center, you want to tie it close to the top actually. Sorry, I misspoke. All right, so tie it tightly, double knot it. Trim the ends. And we've got this extra strand. What would be a good idea here is if I just pull that through with a yarn needle or crochet hook. This one's poking up, so let's get that in. Oops. There it is. Okay. Alright, so there's my tassel. I'm going to trim the ends of my tassel to make sure they're all even. You can kind of like comb them with your fingers. Find where the shortest end is and trim it. And now, the fun part, we're gonna go ahead and pull that tassel through your lantern. I like to just use a small hook for this part. So go through the middle of the top and the center of that bottom. And I'm gonna grab this yarn end and pull it all the way through. As you do that, the little tassel is gonna come in on the bottom, and I'm going to use my yarn needle to kind of pull up the top. It got kind of deflated there. Oops. Now that it's up, I'm going to I'm going to knot up the top here. And there we have it. There is your finished lantern. Thanks for crocheting this with me today. I hope you like this project. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a happy time crafting. Bye now.